Hi, it's Kevin from the Awareness.website, and we thought we'd do a special video here and just talk about a few different things. We've been getting, a number of different comments from people about Qigong and different things that their bodies are going through. So we just kind of wanted to talk about some of this. Mr. Moy comes from a very interesting background, which you don't see very often. He was a Taoist monk. He had training in a lot of different things. He had his Tai Chi teacher, Lo Cup, his Lang Zupang. Mr. Lung is his Qigong teacher. And he also had a lot of involvement in the Taoist temples. So a lot of that background sort of made up his understanding of what he was doing. And when he came to Canada, he wanted to teach all of this. And the vehicle that he chose was Tai Chi. It's a great thing that he did. A lot of people don't understand that in the Tai Chi that we do, the Qigong is there. Mr. Moy incorporated the Qigong exercising into the movements, and that's why we do the Tai Chi the way we do. The foundations, paying attention to the principles and the alignments of the body are different things that allow us to very naturally work our bodies to be able to get the circulations going properly without having to force anything, without having to have any superficial intention or anything like that. And there's a lot of stuff out there that, like people are teaching Qigong courses and whatnot, and a lot of people go to those thinking, oh yeah, they're very, very simple, very easy, and it'll do wonderful things for me. And it can, but you do have to be careful. I remember Mr. Moy talking about doing Qigong, and from his background and his training and his understanding, what he realized is doing some of the exercises without doing the groundwork first, in other words, working with the physical body, can cause problems. You can get the Qi going, yes, but it's a very raw Qi. It's unrefined, and what you want to be doing is refining that Qi in order for it to circulate without causing problems. If you're trying to force raw Qi through the body, it can be very harmful, and especially if you've got blockages, if you've got restrictions in the body. And that's why we do the Tai Chi. In Taoist philosophy, there's the idea of the three treasures. So vitality, energy, and spirit. And you have to start with the vitality, which is the physical part. Working the physical body, getting those blockages to open up. And the thing about being a human being, I guess, is through the course of our life, we go through different things. We have injuries, we have traumas, we have all kinds of things that go on, and this affects our physical body. So that too will affect our energetic aspects, which also affects our connection to our spirit and that spiritual movement as well. So you have to work with the body. So the Tai Chi is absolutely phenomenal at doing that, working through those blockages and having an understanding of the philosophy of the Taoist background. And one of the main things is learning how to forget yourself. We go through our lives and we build all these identities, and you go to other parts of our website, we talk a little bit about the identities and stuff. All the experiences we have go into making up these identities that we have about ourselves. And so everything that happens to us gives us a sense of an identity. And working with the Tai Chi, and we've had lots of people fairly recently, I'll share a couple of stories with you, but when we have an injury, that creates an identity around that experience. And so we hold on to that. Working with the Tai Chi, we now come up head to head with that experience, because now we're starting to revisit those injuries. Sometimes we're trying to work through them, and it can be very difficult. I'll sort of bring up a little bit about Shelley's experience. Back when she was in her teens, she was in a car accident that injured her hip, her left hip. And it's bothered her off and on, not so much when she was younger, but as she gets older, it starts bothering her more and more, to the point that it causes her problems with walking and different things like that. So we started working with the Tai Chi with her, and she started learning Tai Chi, and it kind of aggravates it a little bit. And at one point we were doing one of our challenges, 3 sets a day for 30 days, and it really aggravated it. It really, it was very painful for her sometimes, and every once in a while, yes, and there's associated problems with her knee, and you know, sometimes her foot cramps up and different things like that. So the Tai Chi would almost seem to be the problem. But in reality, it's not the Tai Chi that's the problem. It's the Tai Chi is exposing the underlying issues that are occurring with her body. Now, the difficult thing for a lot of people is, in order to work through this, you have to revisit that. And so you have to look at an identity of yourself that may not be comfortable to look at, or an experience that's not comfortable. And so we fight against it, and we don't want to do the work sometimes. But it's well worth it if you do. I know, and this is a common thing that I've heard from a lot of different people, is sometimes sore feet. And sore feet can be, there are a lot of different things that will attribute to having sore feet when you're doing your Tai Chi. Sometimes it's a misalignment, so that you know, foot's not in the right angle. Sometimes your weight transfer can be an issue, so you're pushing your weight too far forward, cause your feet to tense up. But sometimes too there can be injuries or pre-existing conditions that can cause a problem. And again, the Tai Chi will just expose them. It'll start to exaggerate maybe you've got a minor amount of pain, or you're working through some stuff, and you know, quite often people are aware of them, sometimes they're not, and they start doing the Tai Chi, and now their feet hurt, or other parts of their body are hurting, and that's just an indication that the Tai Chi is kind of knocking on the door on those little bits. So most of the time I encourage people to work through it, but the difficult part is, if it's painful, how do you work through it when it's painful? And that's where the role of the instructor comes in, is to try and work with that person, try and understand what the issues are, and try and help them either modify or adjust things so that they can actually work through it at a fairly comfortable thing. Sometimes, like in some classes, if you're doing a class once a week or whatever, it can be very intensive for a 2-hour session. That's very intensive if you're just starting, so that's a major change for what you're used to doing with your body. You're doing different movements, your weight distribution is going to be different, so it's going to really aggravate some of these kind of problems. So give yourself some space. Don't overdo it, but you know, sometimes you can sit down and just watch other people, and you can still be learning, and then get back to it. You know, quite often I'll suggest massage. So if your feet are a problem, massage your feet before class and maybe after class. Learning how to massage, you know, the tendons around your knees and stuff sometimes, because they're tight. It's interesting how our bodies get into certain conditions just based on how we hold our bodies. The ideas that we have about ourselves cause us to do different things with our bodies. I remember one time when I was in my teens, I thought I needed to develop a certain kind of a walk. And so I remember quite vividly walking across this bridge, going over a river, and it was a fairly long bridge, and I'm walking and I'm trying all these different walks, and I'm strutting, and I'm long stepping, and I'm doing all kinds of different things. And by the time I got about halfway across the bridge, I mean, I was exhausted. And it's funny because somehow I had this idea that I needed to learn how to walk a certain way to present some kind of image of myself. And I'm sure I came up with something. But it, to me, even at that point, it was sort of an indication. And I mean, it just seemed almost ridiculous by the time I was across the bridge. It just seemed kind of ridiculous. You know, I'm trying to figure out how to walk. Well, I mean, just keep it simple, man. But we do that with our bodies. We do all kinds of different things, trying to hold on to an idea of ourselves and what we think moving our bodies, doing certain things with our bodies is going to represent or present to the people around us. And if we can present it effectively, then we get confirmation as to who we think we are. So the Tai Chi is very interesting because it brings your attention back to what you're doing with your body. And sometimes we don't want to look at that. Sometimes we don't want to change it because it's going to change how we're presenting ourselves. And maybe now we won't get the same kind of confirmation. So, I mean, just throwing that out there because these kind of things affect how our energy circulates. It affects our body, it affects how our energy circulates, and it affects our spirit. So, and by all means, research those aspects, those three treasures: vitality, energy, spirit. There's lots of great books, translations of some of the Taoist classics. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, for sure look at that. Of course, we're open to all kinds of conversations and stuff, so by all means. But your body's going to change as you do the Tai Chi, so be prepared for that, and be prepared to work hard. And the more you practice, the quicker that process happens. So I'm talking, in our new series, I'm talking about different dynamics that go on in the Tai Chi that you don't usually learn in the beginner level, but when you start talking about the expanding, the contracting, the spiraling, doing the Dan Yus and stuff, all of those things, those foundation exercises are designed to transform the body. And changing the body is what we're working on. It's not we're trying to learn how to fight or anything like that. Really, the Tai Chi doesn't teach you fighting techniques. It teaches your body how to move properly again. And so, going back to the idea of the yin-yang symbol, there's that balance, but there's also direction as to either you're going on the path of aging or you're going the path of returning back to the original nature, returning to the source. And forgetting oneself, letting go of those identities and stuff, is one of the things you need to do as you work on it. But you've also got to work on the physical, so it's not just mind and body, it's mind and body together, and because they affect each other. It's kind of interesting, like just a story comes up here that when I'm talking about shifting the spine and moving things around, people talk about internal movement and all that. I remember Mr. Moy had a translator that was sharing a story one time, and they were doing whip to one side. Mr. Moy had them practicing whip to one side over and over and over. And Mr. Moy was telling this person, as when they did a certain part of the move, is to shift their liver. Now we're talking about, moving the spine and wiggling around kind of thing. But here Mr. Moy is telling this person to shift their liver. And they're saying, well, I don't know how to do that. I mean, how do you do that? And they get up there. So Mr. Moy just comes up and he aims a kick at their ribs. And they whoop. He says, there. So sometimes it's just a very simple thing, and just learning a certain dynamic. Mr. Moy was, a master at getting you to do certain things when you couldn't understand. I mean, he just had this ability and this talent for being able to get another person's body to do what it needed to do. Now, I don't recommend you going up to your students and kicking them in the ribs to get them to shift their livers. But it's just a story that sometimes that was a the approach that was needed for Mr. Moy to get this person to do it. But as soon as they did it, they understood. So that's sometimes what it takes, is enough practice over and over and over. So that's why we talk about doing repetition, repeating the moves, taking the continuing classic series and repeating the move, just one single move over and over and over, to the point that you start to let go. You start to relax, you start to forget about thinking how the move's supposed to go, and you just feel it. You just feel how it goes, and then pretty soon some things start to happen. Some very interesting things. But again, you have to keep it very relaxed, very natural. And as the body starts to open up, then that qigong starts to happen. The qi starts to happen very naturally. We've already got circulation going in our bodies, but it's a matter of enhancing that. And with the exercise that we do in the Tai Chi, it will do that. It'll start to get the energy working, but the body, the vitality has to improve first. Lots to think about with this. I'm running out of time here. So I think I've covered everything I want to say for the moment, but we'll throw out some other videos as we go along, and keep sending your comments, because that inspires me to talk about different things. So take care. As always, check out the website, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our channel. See you again.